What's happening, everybody? Welcome into the Wilbur and Gold Show. I am your host, Will Dalton, a.k.a. Wilbur and Gold, welcoming you in on a Tuesday afternoon. Excuse me, voice is a little scratchy today. How's everybody doing? You doing all right? Huh? Huh? Got my lemon water here, and we're going to get this thing going. We're going to get this thing all riled up. Boy. So good week of ACC football. Some spring games went down. Had Georgia Tech, Boston College, Pitt, Carolina. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the ACC. Obviously, you can see I got the Clemson game. I don't know when exactly Clemson played. I didn't honestly know they did yet, but Clemson got that on in the background there. I'm excited, man. I mean, I say this all the time in my ACC show that I do on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I mean, we had one of the best ACC football seasons we've had, really, maybe ever this past season. And I think this season's going to be even better because, I mean, obviously last year was the COVID year and I feel like we're going to be pretty much completely back to normal when we get to the football season this year. And I just think it's going to be so much better. I think teams that were already great last year, Clemson, Carolina, teams like that, I think they're going to be even better. I think Carolina's closer to dethroning Clemson than people think. Teams that started to take kind of their first step into being a legit team, Boston College, NC State, teams like that, I think they're going to be even better. I think Pitt's going to have a good year. I think Boston College is going to be ranked at some point. At least 1 week out of the season, they're going to be in the top 25, and I think it's going to be a lot more than that. But, man, and I think Georgia Tech can make some noise. I think FSU could take their first steps kind of out of the abyss of the bottom part of the ACC. I think Louisville could potentially do that. I really feel good about Georgia Tech doing that. So there's a lot to be excited about if you're an ACC football fan or just an ACC fan or a fan of one of the teams. Unless you're Duke and Syracuse or Wake Forest. I mean, they're at the bottom of the ACC, but there's a lot to be excited about. So let me start with this. A little Star Wars action here. Got actually several Star Wars things I would like to potentially get to here over the next half hour that will be on. Could Luke Skywalker have been more powerful than Anakin Skywalker? Now, that's a hard question for me to say without being biased, because, Anakin's my favorite character. The Anakin / Vader character, but more so Anakin is my favorite character. And I mean, once we get to episode 3, which I really kind of have a hankering to watch, once we get to episode 3, I mean, Anakin is just a stud. I mean, elite level Jedi. Just elite level Jedi. And yet, I thought it was an interesting question. Could Luke have been more powerful than Anakin? And the reason I posed that question is because when you think about it, Anakin grew up around this stuff, essentially. From the time that he got to the Jedi Temple in Phantom Menace, episode 1, and he was 9 years old or 10 years old or whatever it was, to the time where I believe at the events of Revenge of the Sith, episode 3, I think he was either 22 or 23 years old. So that's a pretty nice chunk of his life there that he spent in the Jedi Temple around, Yoda and Mace Windu and Obi-Wan and just all those Jedis when they were essentially in their prime, there at the Jedi Temple and throughout the Clone Wars. He grew up around it, and so we saw how powerful he ultimately became. My whole thing was like, low-key, I kind of think Luke could have been more powerful. And the reason I think that, maybe not. I mean, I don't know. The reason I wonder that is because Luke became obviously very powerful, but he essentially had to train himself. Like, he had Yoda help him some. He had Obi-Wan help him some. But he didn't grow up in the Jedi Temple. He wasn't even introduced to really the Force or the ways of the Jedi at all I don't know how old he would have been considered in A New Hope. My guess is that he would have been about as old as Anakin was in Attack of the Clones, so probably around 18, 19 years old. Um, so he got introduced to it way later than Anakin did. He got trained by only a couple. I mean, obviously Obi-Wan and Yoda are some of the greatest you could be trained by, but I mean, he didn't grow up in the Jedi Temple. He didn't grow up around it. He basically had to kind of train himself for the most part. With the Jedi. I'm sure he learned from the texts and things like that, how to build a lightsaber and all that stuff. But like he became very powerful essentially on his own. He had a lot of. I feel he probably had a lot of untapped raw potential just because of the fact that he didn't grow up around all these masters. I mean, he just had a couple. Obi-Wan and Yoda, and he essentially had to teach himself. So to me, and obviously we'll never know the answer. This is one of those fun debate questions that we could go on all day. And it's hard for me to say it because, again, I think Anakin is the OG. I think he's the GOAT. He's my favorite. But when you look at how powerful Luke became and how he trained and became what he became, I can't help but wonder if Luke had have grown up in the Jedi Temple like Anakin did, what could he have done? So that's a fun question for debate. I saw in a couple of these topics I have are topics from a couple of weeks ago that I meant to get to, so I'm just going to kind of brush over them. So the Obi-Wan Kenobi cast came out like a month or so ago. Obviously, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Obviously, Hayden Christensen back as Vader. Anakin, maybe in some flashbacks, we'll see. So we're getting our OG guys back from the prequels, which I love because that's my favorite trilogy. That's what I grew up on. What I'm interested in though is I don't know the actress's name, but it's the actress that played whoever. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, whoever played something, her last name was Sand. She was like the head of the Sand Snakes down in Dorne. She was the girlfriend or love interest of Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, in Game of Thrones. So that actress that played her, is supposed to be in the Kenobi cast. And some have speculated that she could either, one, have been, I don't know her name because I haven't gotten really deep into the Clone Wars, but whoever the love interest was of Obi-Wan could potentially be her, or, and I'm hoping this is the answer, Asajj Ventress. She could be playing her, which she would be perfect for that role. So that I found very interesting. And then I also found it very interesting that Ice Cube's son is going to be in this thing as well. I have no idea the role, but I found that interesting. Also, the Bad Batch trailer came out, and just a couple of things. I want to start getting more. So I want to, leading up to the Bad Batch, which actually comes out here very soon. I think comes out on May the 4th. Star Wars Day, May the 4th. So actually, I kind of want to get into Clone Wars, and I want to get into that more so before getting into Bad Batch, so I can kind of start out fresh right at the beginning, because I didn't really get into Clone Wars right out the gate, but I do want to do that for Bad Batch. So obviously we saw that Fennec is going to be in it from The Mandalorian, the duo with Boba Fett, which she will also probably be in the Book of Boba, which I think comes out later in the year or next year, one or the other. Obviously we saw Grand Moff Tarkin in the preview. We saw Rex, which was a big surprise in the preview, and we saw obviously the Emperor, and we did not see Vader. So my biggest question is what role, if any, which you would have to suspect, which that actually fascinates me as well, because I don't know the specific exact timeline for Bad Batch, but I'm pretty sure it takes place right after Revenge of the Sith, essentially, in the first days of the Empire, when it becomes the Empire. So everybody's still technically in a clone outfit. I don't think they've made that transition into stormtroopers yet. Um, I'm interested to see what type of role Vader would potentially have in this show if we see him. Is it going to be kind of a Rogue One type deal where he's kind of in the background for maybe just a handful or a few scenes, but damn it if those scenes weren't memorable that we got him, just like Rogue One. So I'm intrigued by that. Yeah, I'm excited for I'm so excited for the Kenobi show. I want to see Hayden Christensen back on the screen as Anakin Vader so bad. Like I really, because that's one thing as a kid, and I've told this to you guys before. As a kid, that little period, and people that maybe aren't as deep of a Star Wars fan as I or some others are. I was talking about how that period of time right after Revenge of the Sith and leading into ultimately A New Hope, which is like a decade or so and a half later. That little period of time right after Revenge of the Sith, like I'm talking like immediately after. I mean, Vader has just gotten the suit. Obi-Wan has just gone into exile. Revenge of the Sith literally just went down last week. That close to Revenge of the Sith. I've always been so fascinated by that period of time, and I feel like it's the most explored and under story told period of time in Star Wars. That to me is the most fascinating. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, we got Rogue One, which Rogue One isn't right up. Rogue One is literally 2 weeks or a week leading into A New Hope. A lot of people are like, oh, but we got the comic books. I'm like, yes, but on screen is different. I'm talking like at live action on screen. A lot of people are like, oh, what about Rebels and this and that? I'm like, no, I'm talking. I would like to see it is the most fascinating period of time for me, and it has been ever since Revenge of the Sith came out, was when I was in 3rd grade. That little period of time right after Revenge of the Sith, Anakin has just gotten the suit. Padme has just died. Obi-Wan and Yoda have just gone into exile. Luke and Leia were just born. The Empire was just born. The Death Star is. We haven't even begun Death Star preparations yet. It's like it's nothing yet. We are just beginning the Empire. That is the period of time I'm so fascinated by. And so I'm hoping, I don't know the specific timeline that the Kenobi show is. I mean, obviously it's between 3 and 4. No, obviously. But I don't know if this is more so, which I'm hoping that the answer is yes, since obviously Hayden Christensen is back. I'm hoping that this is going to give us that window into, I'm talking like immediately following Revenge of the Sith. So I'm actually curious if we see the Emperor. I haven't thought about this until this very second. I wonder if we're going to see the Emperor at all in the Kenobi show. So that whole deal, all of the shows, which is a lot that we're supposed to be getting from Disney, which I'm so excited about. I'm so excited about the level of Star Wars content that's on the way, the level of Star Wars video games that are on the way. Hopefully Battlefront 3 is going to be teased at EA Play or whatever it's called. I'm excited and ecstatic about the open world Star Wars game that we're going to be getting from Ubisoft, because an open world Star Wars game where you can literally Grand Theft Auto style, literally get in the ship, fly from the surface of a planet into outer space to other planets. It's something I've always dreamed of playing. And on a PS5, which was ultimately what it'll come out for in a couple of years, it's going to look incredible. Just the level of Star Wars content that's coming. It just, for us Star Wars fans, I don't care what anybody says. I'm more on the optimistic side. I'm not the fuck Disney shit. I'm not the fuck The Last Jedi shit. I'm not the fuck the sequels Rey and all that shit. I love all of it, just because there are certain things that I didn't care for or I wish they would have done differently. It's still Star Wars to me. I've always looked at it that way. I'm more of an optimistic type of person. I don't like to complain about shit, especially stuff that's a movie, even though Star Wars is so much more than a movie to me. At the end of the day, like, it's okay. Like, it is okay. and I'm probably one of the biggest Star Wars fans on this planet. And I would argue that with anybody. So there's never been a better time to be a Star Wars fan. There just hasn't. So I don't care what anybody says about that. Put that stake in the ground. So let me move on to some sports stuff before we get out of here in a few minutes. So one thing that as I am getting more into content creation and more, and I guess I relate to this more because I am a former athlete. I played baseball from 5 to 23, played all the way up through college, and now I'm a sports broadcaster, so I'm still kind of linked to it in just a different way from a different angle. And so I guess I love that we're in such an age now of content creation where people understand that content is king, with social media and the platforms and it being free to put out, on different platforms. People are starting to understand that content is the game. And if you don't have some type of presence on some form of social media, you're becoming more relevant. And so I love seeing like Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Brandon Marshall, all these athletes that, whether they're like LeBron or Aaron Rodgers and they're some of the best athletes of all time, or they're other, athletes that maybe they were solid, but they understand that there's life after sports that they could get into and potentially even make a bigger name for themselves. Like Brandon Marshall was a hell of a football player, hell of a receiver. He is probably going to go down as a bigger broadcaster than he was a football player because he understands that content is the game. His House of Athlete and the podcast he's doing, he gets it. Cam Newton, an all-time quarterback talent, he's now started that new show called Sip and Smoke, which I want to start watching. And, with his production company, he understands that he is such and that's why I love Cam so much. He's such a personality. He's an all-time football talent, but he is such an all-time personality that he could potentially make a bigger name for himself in content and media than he ever did as a football player. And he's got a pretty big damn name as a football player. LeBron, arguably the GOAT in basketball. He's in acting. He's in production. He's in filmmaking. Like, he gets it, with Uninterrupted and all that. So I'm loving this age of, and Aaron Rodgers, I was thinking about, because he hasn't been as big on content creation, but considering he could be in the running for the next host of Jeopardy, and he's a personality as well. So the fact that all these great athletes are understanding that you don't just die off after your sports career is over. There's broadcasting, there's content creation, there's filmmaking, there's acting. You can do all of it potentially. Like if you're that character that you have like to have a lot of balls in the air, which I am. It's entrepreneurship. You're seeing so many athletes become entrepreneurs, and it is such an incredible time. That's why I laugh when people are like, "Oh, social media, social media isn't changing us. Social media is exposing who we are. That's all that is. That's why I laugh when people act like yes, there is shit out there. There was the pandemic that we're hopefully coming out of soon, and we're starting to see even more light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, there are things politically that are fucked up. Yes, there are things. There's things everywhere. There's problems. Yes, there are problems. There is real shit out there that needs to be addressed and talked about and changed for the better. But you are naive and just not aware if you don't understand that literally this is the greatest time to be alive in the history of humans. Period. There's more opportunity. There's more opportunity now than there ever has been. You can literally, because of the internet, you can literally there are so many more open doors for just Joe Blow, random dude that nobody's ever even knew existed, to become something, whether in business, whether in content. Look, it doesn't matter. Like, this is the greatest time in the fucking history of Earth. Take advantage of it. I'm wrapping it up on that. I'm done. Oh, like, I'm on such a high note now. I'm done. That's it. That's all you needed from today. Is the greatest time right now in the history of Earth. We'll see you next time.